Nobody saw it coming. One moment Alex Eala was just another promising young player warming up on a grass court in Bad Homburg, Germany. The next, she was doing something so quietly powerful, so unexpectedly human, that a stadium full of tennis fans fell completely silent. And when the moment finally registered, some of them had tears running down their faces. This is the story of a 21-year-old girl from the Philippines who shared a court with her childhood hero, Venus Williams, and reminded the entire sporting world what it actually means to be a champion, not just on the scoreboard, but in the space between points, in the little gestures nobody choreographs, in the kind of person you are when nobody's telling you to be anything at all. So let's go back to the beginning, because this story doesn't start with that one unforgettable moment. It starts much earlier, in the heart of a young Filipino girl who grew up watching one of the greatest players the sport has ever produced and daring herself to dream the kind of dream that seems almost cruel in its distance from reality. Alex Eala grew up watching Venus Williams. Not casually, the way a kid might flip past a tennis match on television and pause for a second before changing the channel. She watched her the way you watch someone who makes you believe the impossible is just something you haven't tried hard enough yet. Venus was the blueprint, the proof, the living answer to the question of what human potential actually looks like when it's given room to breathe and the will to fight. Fast forward to June 2026, and the girl who grew up watching that blueprint is now 21 years old, seeded 29th at Wimbledon, about to become the first Filipino player in history to earn a seeded position at a Grand Slam, and she's standing on the same grass court in Bad Homburg as the woman herself. You genuinely cannot write this kind of thing. Life only pulls it off occasionally, and when it does, you have to pay attention. Both players had come into the week carrying a little disappointment. Eala had lost her singles match to Belgium's Elise Mertens. Venus had fallen narrowly to Romania's Irina Camelia Begu. Neither result was catastrophic, but both players wanted more time on the grass before Wimbledon, more rhythm, more movement, more feel for the surface. The doubles draw offered exactly that. What it didn't offer, what nobody could have predicted, was the kind of partnership that makes you feel like you're watching something rare take shape right in front of you. From the very first game, the chemistry between them was undeniable. Eala's relentless baseline power, that blistering pace that had already knocked out world number 2 Elena Rybakina and world number 8 Alina Svitolina in Berlin just days earlier, fused with Venus's timeless instincts at the net, the kind of court awareness you only develop after decades of reading the game at the highest level. They surged to a 4-0 lead in the first set. The crowd in Bad Homburg started to sense they were seeing something worth remembering. And then it happened. The moment that none of the cameras were set up to catch, but caught anyway. It was a changeover, one of those brief interruptions in play where players walk to their chairs and towel off and try to collect themselves before heading back out into the heat. And it was genuinely hot. The German sun had been pressing down on those outdoor grass courts all afternoon, the kind of heat that makes every point feel like it costs something extra. A ball boy approached with an umbrella to offer shade to one of the players. These things happen all the time at outdoor tournaments. It's a small, routine act of hospitality, completely unremarkable under normal circumstances. But Eala didn't reach for it. Without hesitation, without any kind of theatrical pause or glance toward the cameras, she simply gestured to the ball boy to redirect the umbrella toward Venus, the 7-time Grand Slam champion. The 46-year-old icon who had been inspiring athletes around the world for nearly 3 decades. The woman Alex Eala had grown up watching on a television screen and probably never imagined being close enough to actually look in the eye. She gave her the shade. That's all she did. It lasted maybe 4 seconds. And the entire stadium felt it. People in the stands who had been chatting between points suddenly went quiet. There was a ripple, that specific kind of human stillness that falls over a crowd when something catches them off guard in the best possible way, when reality produces a moment so genuine and unperformed that it briefly dissolves the distance between strangers. Here's what makes it so striking when you think about it. Eala had earned that umbrella. She was the one out there grinding on every single point. She was 21 years old playing on the biggest stage of her young career, sharing a court with a legend, with Wimbledon days away and the whole Filipino nation watching her every move. Nobody would have thought twice if she had accepted the shade. It was hers to take. But she didn't think about what she was entitled to. She thought about Venus. She thought about showing respect to someone she had admired from a distance for her entire life, not through words or interviews or carefully worded social media posts, but through one small, unscripted, completely natural gesture that cost her nothing and said everything. The match ended 6-3, 6-4. 1 hour and 10 minutes of clean, confident tennis that delivered exactly the grass court rhythm both players were looking for. But when the final point was won, nobody was really talking about the scoreline. The selfie came next. After the match, the two of them pulled out a phone and took a photo together. Just a moment between partners after a win. Spontaneous, genuine, unposed in the way that all the best photographs are. And that image, two generations standing side by side on a grass court in Germany, one at the very beginning of what promises to be a long and remarkable story, and one whose story has already filled volumes, spread across social media so fast it was almost surreal. Filipino fans who had been awake in the middle of the night to watch the match, who had been following Aya's rise with the specific joy of a country that has waited a long time for a player like this, flooded every platform they could find. Hashtags trended. Videos clipped and shared again. Comments poured in from every time zone on Earth. One fan wrote something that captured it better than most. Watching Aya share a court with her childhood idol is everything. This is what tennis is all about. And then Venus responded. On Instagram, in words nobody was going to forget, Venus Williams called Alex Eala her best partner. The best ride, the best tournament, the best partner. That's it. That's what she said. But sometimes simple words land hard when the feeling behind them is real, and it was clear to anyone paying attention that Venus meant every syllable. Aya responded with a kind of gratitude that doesn't come from a PR team. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that I'd have the privilege of competing alongside you on court, she wrote. Immensely grateful to learn from you. There it was. The girl who had watched Venus Williams from afar, who had built her own game and her own identity and her own relentless determination in the years since, was now expressing genuine wonder at a shared reality she hadn't quite fully processed yet. The quarterfinal came the next day, June 25th. Their opponents were Olivia Nichols and Teresa Mihalakova, the second seeds, a formidable British-Slovak pairing who had just won the WTA 500 at Queen's Club and were in serious form. The match was a fight from the opening game. Aya and Venus found some early footing, briefly taking a 3-2 lead in the first set, and for a moment it looked like the magic from the previous day might carry through. But Nichols and Mihalakova were relentless. They won 6 straight games to take the first set 6-3, and although Aya and Venus managed to pull it back to 2-1 in the second before their opponents pushed to 5-1, the comeback they needed never quite arrived. It finished 6-3, 6-2. The run was over. But here is the thing about that loss, and this is what separates genuinely meaningful sports stories from the ones that are only about winning. The defeat didn't diminish anything. Not a single moment of what had been built over those 2 matches felt smaller because they didn't win the second one. If anything, the grace with which both players handled the exit made everything that had come before it land even harder. Olivia Nichols, one of the players who had just beaten them, said it was a huge honor to share the court with Venus Williams, one of the legends of the game. Her partner Mihalakova added that playing against Venus, and potentially Serena at Wimbledon, was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. You know, a moment has hit differently when the people who won are the ones talking about the privilege of being there. And now both players move forward carrying everything this week gave them. Aya heads into Wimbledon as the 29th seed, the first Filipino player in the history of the tournament to hold a seeded position at any Grand Slam. The weight of what that means to an entire country is not something easily put into words. Tennis in the Philippines has a new name, a new face, and a 21-year-old who has already shown the world that she competes with fire and carries herself with grace. Venus, meanwhile, is preparing for a different kind of moment at Wimbledon, a reunion with her sister Serena in the doubles, their first tournament together in nearly 4 years. That's its own story, its own layer of legacy and emotion, and the complicated beauty of 2 people who helped redefine what was possible in their sport, showing up together one more time. But before any of that begins, there is still this week to hold on to. A practice week that became a story. A doubles partnership that nobody planned and everybody needed. A 21-year-old pointing an umbrella toward a legend. A selfie that broke the internet. A 7-time Grand Slam champion calling her best partner. These are the moments that don't appear on the official record, that don't show up in rankings or prize money or title counts, but that somehow outlast almost everything else. Because tennis gives us matches every week, tournaments every fortnight, champions every season. But moments that remind you why sport actually matters, moments that carry something true about what people are capable of being when they're not performing for anyone, those are rare. And this week in Bad Homburg, on a grass court in the German summer heat, Alex Eala and Venus Williams gave us one of those moments. And the world paid attention.